I got so many requests for a tutorial for this mega puff quilt that I made. To start, you're going to cut all of your main fabric into 10-inch squares. For mine, I have 4 different fabrics and I got 1 yard of each fabric. You'll need 42 cut squares because we'll be doing 6 rows with 7 squares in each row. To start our first row, you'll grab 2 squares and put them right sides together. Pin and sew them together along one side of the squares. Grab another square and add it to the row by doing the same thing. Continue to do this until you have 1 row of 7 squares. I did not do any pleats because instead of sewing each square individually, I'm doing it in rows just to make it easier. Once I finish my first row, I lay it flat somewhere where I can see it so that when I'm starting on my second row, I can make sure to choose a different order of fabrics so I don't have one of the same fabrics stacked on top of each other. Keep sewing a row of 7 squares until you have 6 total rows. When you're finished, you're just going to press open all of your seams. For this next part, you can either use clearance or scrap fabric, but you're going to cut 6 strips of fabric that are 10 inches wide and about 70 inches long. You're going to attach each of your rows to the scrap fabric by sewing along the top side of the row, right sides facing out. To create the pockets that the stuffing will go in, you're going to top stitch down each seam of where the squares are joined. Do the same things on the end to close those off as well. For the next part, you need at least 2 32-ounce bags of polyfill stuffing, and we're going to stuff each pocket until it's about 2/3 full. I don't like to overstuff mine because I think it makes it harder to store and harder to wash. Once your first row is fully stuffed, you're going to take your second row and pin the top of the second row along the bottom open part of the first row. Sew those together and that'll close off your pockets with the stuffing and add your second row to the first row. Continue that process by stuffing each row and then attaching the next row. To close off the last row, we're going to start by attaching the lace to the open edge. You're going to pin and attach the lace by putting it right side down with the ruffles facing away from the edge. Continue to do the same thing and attach the lace along each side of the quilt. Now that you have the top of the quilt done with the lace attached, lie it on a big flat surface. You're going to pin it with the backing fabric right sides together. Make sure that the trim is tucked inside and between both fabrics. Going around each edge, sew the backing fabric to the top of the quilt. Make sure to leave about a 15-inch gap on one of the sides so that we can turn the quilt right side out. Once you're finished attaching the backing, go ahead and flip the quilt right side out, and you can now see that we have the cute lace trim around the edge of the quilt. From here, we're going to hand stitch the gap closed by using a ladder stitch. And then you're finished with your super cute mega puff quilt. If you want to use the same fabrics that I used, you can purchase a kit with the link in my bio.